they did these things for a long duration of time. I think it was wrong. Sometimes, a lot of the time that they did these things, that they spent that amount of time there without any sort of real choice or anything. It's very sort of thing. It left me with a lot of. It was like a pain for me. It was too much to cope with. I couldn't understand really what was going on, or why I wasn't really given fair and equal treatment, or any sort of real anything to really share this properly or whatever. I wasn't given any sort of rights or equal anything. I was mistreated. I was something that ruined my life and ruined my quality of life, left me with memories that I didn't want, or experiences, many experiences that I didn't want to have or didn't deserve to have, or in hindsight probably would have said no, I would have rather you hadn't have done that at the time. And I thought it was something that I couldn't cope with, and I felt that there was nothing that would really happen to help me. I could never really say no. I thought that it was things that they essentially they killed a part of me. I thought a part of me was dead, and that it was one of the hardest things to really go through. There was a sense of abandonment. There was a sense of indifference, a sense of loneliness and neglect and pain. And I don't think it was something that I felt like I have no real intention of really having that sort of relationship with them, or what they do in the future. I don't want that sort of thing. If ever in the future that came up, I would probably almost definitely pursue some sort of action against that. If this ever was investigated and they came forward or whatever, I would definitely consider having instead some sort of sort of uncomfortability there. I found it very hard. It was very demanding on me, very stressful, very painful. There was a lot of energy that they put into this, that I put into it. There was a back and forth. There was horribly sort of graphic descriptions of things and events and plot lines and things that went on, and I didn't really want to really sort of, because it was that bad, I thought that was their fault, and there was never really any accountability for it, and every sort of hour of my day was like an ongoing struggle and things, and there's nothing. I'm really powerless to do anything about it, and probably the worst part about it was that I couldn't solve this or fix it very immediately and quickly, when that was what I craved, was an immediate and quick fix, somebody to go to, or some sort of paying attention to me in the sort of sphere of rights and justice and things, the things that I was entitled to and qualified to, the right to information, the right to knowledge, the right to real sorts of medical, with the damages to me, medical because of the damages, and the permanent damages, which I will never get that back, because of sort of things that happened. Sometimes it was just because of the interactions I was having with these men that I just didn't want or couldn't tolerate, I suffered severe harm because they were there sometimes, because of things that they did or said, and there was times where they could have stopped, where they didn't. And, I don't want, any sort of thing like that or whatever, because I found them quite very, very detrimental to my life in a really, really, really dangerous, unsafe, and very, very careless way. It was incredibly careless, incredibly, challenging for me to cope with. It was exhausting. I was exhausted. I wanted just to say, can you just leave me alone? Like, I don't want you sort of here, whatever, often or whatever. Sometimes it was nice, sometimes I liked them being there, sometimes it was a good thing, sometimes it was really positive for me. There was a lot of times where it was really positive for me. There was a lot of times where, like, there was a lot of times where it was, really beneficial to me, and it, like, changed my life or whatever, to have them there, like, really helped me or whatever, like, made me, like, feel like, loved or whatever. They made me feel very loved, they made me feel very cared about. If you'd really seen it in the beginning, you would have seen a completely different perspective of this, and I think you can tell. I think you can tell that that it got a bit weird at a certain point, and it was very positive to begin with. That they were loving me in a quite gentle way, in a quite caring or whatever way, that I found to be very sweet and, blessed and loved and things. And I did, spend every day feeling very cared about and nurtured. Like, I did spend, like, times or whatever being nurtured and, like, really, like, helped and things when I sort of, like, what I'm doing or whatever. They had a very, like, nurturing sort of energy. They had a very, like, caring sort of vibe and things, and they spent a lot of time with me like that in a very, like, intimate way. People who care about, me, people who obviously care about me, like, people who obviously care about me, and I was very bitter and angry. I was very bitter and angry that, I didn't really get my justice or, like, my fair treatment or whatever, or, like, any of my rights or anything like that. Whatever, and they, like, gave me things or, like, changed my life in a positive way, and I never really, like, got to share that with people, tell people about that. And nobody ever really cared either. Like, I was experiencing all this, and they were there, and they were, like, talking to me and being with me or whatever, and, like, being real, like, family members to me or whatever, and, like, sharing what was, like, their, like, TV show or whatever with me, and I was, like, part of it or whatever, like, and I was, like, a part of it or whatever. And then I was just so, like, bitter and angry about how I was betrayed, like, at the end, and how it was all like, I had such positive expectations of, like, oh well, like, well, this will happen to me now, and everything will be okay or whatever, and then all this horrible stuff started happening, and I was like, why did it, like, happen or whatever, and nobody ever really, like, cared about me or anything like that. And it's like, I need therapy after it,
like real, like actual care and compensation and things. It's like I never had like an actual hug or whatever. And they ever like properly spoke to me or whatever, like a real conversation or whatever, like I never really got to sit down with them and hear like stories about their life and like their actual like lives and things. Like it's like it didn't work like that otherwise, you know. It would be a lot easier for me. Otherwise it would be a lot more like, oh, you know, here we go, whatever, like these people, whatever, October the 7th, blah blah blah, whatever. Some sort of investigation into like what was really going on or whatever, but I was angry or whatever, and I thought they thought it was like an escape, and it was this horrible feeling of like ongoing sort of like abuse that I was suffering, like just as a byproduct of the experience being very like neglectful and knowing about me and things, and like being there and people just never ever like caring or whatever, like, and you think like maybe nobody will ever care, like it's like it is like it's really dark, and like when people like ever investigate it, or like it would be like I just can't cope with it and what happened, and like it was too much for me and I just wanted it to stop. And it was just like, please make it stop, like for ages. Please, please, guys, just like have like any sort of justice or anyone understanding me or believing me or like doing something about it or caring, like. It's like I don't even want to really like have that sort of thing, like, or whatever. I just want it to stop, you know, like it was too much for me. It was horribly like damaging for my like health, and now I'm like here and I'm like, is anyone gonna like save me or whatever? These people, like, it's I just want it to stop, like. And you can like blame things on them, you can, like things that happened and the way they were with me and things, and they just won't be held accountable for it. I mean, things that, you know, the cast members or whatever did that like weren't okay, or that hurt me or whatever, and things, and there was never, it's like, because it isn't like famous or whatever, and they're not saying anything about it, about something which is clearly incredibly advanced, like, because they're not, you know, I'm not allowed to, whenever something happened, I couldn't just go online and say this just happened, and it's so obvious that I was in that sort of bubble, so that sort of thing could just go on or whatever, and stuff like that, and there's just no sort of like an investigation into how these people genuinely, like, they were in my life every day, sometimes in a way I didn't want, in a way I would have said, can you not do that, or like, can we do something else? And these are big sort of names and things, big sort of people, you know what I mean, who are like there every day, and nobody, like, with a lot of money, and it's like I'm just like an innocent victim or whatever of this, and it's like it's my dead body, like, and it's like he really deserves some level of, I mean, if it ever does sort of anything happens, are they going to give me painkillers? Do I have the right to like painkillers or whatever? Like, you know, and it's like you can tell that there's something like really like spiritual about the whole thing, that it really was constant, needs to be, should be, and it just never was, and you think, why was that? Well, so that I suffered, so that I suffered more, and I think they're smart enough to, they're not stupid, it's like, they're not the sort of people to think, oh, just do this or whatever, you know, they sort of like, you know, things were excused or whatever, or there were things I genuinely wanted to talk to these people about. What are you doing?